welcome everyone. Thank you very much for being here with us tonight with Emma and Cryos International. I am Eloise Eddington and I am the founder and editor of Fertility Help Hub. I'm fascinated by this evening's topic and conversation because I have 3 young children thanks to donor sperm conception. So I've been there personally and I'm very interested to hear about Emma's personal experience and feelings. And also Mila will be giving insightful information about the sperm donor process, selection, etc. So welcome Emma, please tell us a bit about you.
Hi, my name is Emma. I am 24 years and I'm from Denmark and I am donor conceived. Yeah.
Thank you for coming tonight and welcome Mila from Cryos.
Hi everyone. I'm a clinic account manager at Cryos International and I work especially with clinics and developing those relationships, and I've also worked with different patients in all aspects of their fertility journey, and I'll be happy to answer any questions about the process.
Wonderful. So this will last approximately an hour. We've got some great content to cover tonight, and there'll be a mini presentation from Mila from Cryos, followed by Emma's slides and her story, and then we will finish with a Q&A around fertility treatment with donor sperm and the questions that you've already submitted in advance for Emma as well. We're recording this, so for anyone who misses it, you can watch it back. And we'll be uploading it to our website following this in case you do want to watch it back. Please raise your hand if you've got any questions or anything that you want to ask. There's also a chat box where you can ask questions too. And as you can already see, there's no need to share your screen, so it can be as anonymous as you like. So if we start with Mila and talking about fertility treatment with donor sperm and introducing Cryos International.
Yes, thank you, Eloise. All right, so I'm going to start by telling you a bit about Cryos. I don't know if everyone here tonight knows Cryos International. We are a sperm and egg bank, and we deliver to fertility clinics in more than 100 countries. So, so I'll just get started with the first slide if you can, yes. So Cryos is the world's largest sperm bank. That means we have the greatest or largest selection of donors. And what that means for you is that you get the most choice when you're making this decision. We believe it's one of the most important decisions you're going to be making. So we want to offer as much choice as we can in terms of different donor profiles and also the information that we provide about the donors. We also have donors with photos that you can get access to, because we believe that sometimes having more information helps the decision. We've been around for 30 years. Actually, we just had our anniversary, 33 years, and what this means that we've been around, we are going to be around. We're well established, and it's important because you, as much as we've been a resource for all the children that have been born from our donors, we also want to be there for the children that will be born in the future. And being established provides that security and that peace of mind that we can be a resource in the future as well. We have a very caring group of consultants that are together speak more than 11 or 12 languages. I think we are. We've got new ones now. And we're ready to answer any questions you may have, not only about the process, but also about the different legislations in the different countries of treatment. It's very complex, and we will help you navigate those questions you may have, depending on what your situation is and where you want to get your treatment. As I said, we have delivered to over 100 countries, and we have a very fast delivery system. Within Europe, within 1 to 2 days, we can get your order delivered at your clinic. And we pride ourselves on the quality of our samples. We only accept 5 to 7 out of 100 candidates that walk into Cryos to become donors, and we have the highest number of registered pregnancies, which means, you know, those two paired up, I think, speak for themselves. So I was going to cover the top 3 questions that we get from clients most of the time. And the first one is, what should I think about when I'm starting the process? What considerations are important to have in mind when starting the selection? And the first thing I'd say is you have to base your decision on the legislation of the country of treatment. So if you're going to have treatment in the UK, you have to consider only ID released donors. If you're going to get your treatment in, I don't know, Italy, only non-ID release or anonymous donors, like they're known elsewhere. Make a wish list, try to be open-minded, revisit, and, you know, check with us if what you're choosing, if you're in the right track. You may have questions about maybe quotas. Is it allowed to buy this donor for this country? And so on and so forth. Don't be afraid to call us, to check in with us. We're happy to help. What and how much do I buy? So this is going to depend on the type of treatment you're going to get. It depends on what your clinic advises you, because maybe they estimate that you have to buy for 3 cycles, or maybe they say, well, let's do 1 cycle and see how it goes. So it's very important to discuss it with your clinic. And also, when you're thinking about purchasing, to think ahead. It might not work on the first try. You might have to you might want to consider sibling treatment already, because depending on the stock that the donor has available, you may want to set aside something already from the start, so you don't have to worry about that donor having any available straws later down the road. So those are some of the typical questions that we get from the beginning. How the process works. So in order to browse, we have free access to all of the donor profiles, but you have to create an account before you can browse them on our website. So first step is to create the account, and then I want you to check the settings to make sure, again, that the country of treatment is the right country that you're going to get the treatment at, because then it will show you the donors that are qualified to that country of treatment. So the donors that comply with all the rules and regulations of that country. Once you have that, you can go ahead and browse through the profiles and find your favorite donor. And you can add straws either to an order, which means that it will be shipped within the next month or so, or to a reservation that we will keep in storage for you until you need it shipped to the clinic. And the benefit of placing straws on a reservation is that if you don't end up needing them later on, we can refund you with 75% of the price of the straws. So it's always a good idea to ship what you need right away and reserve the rest so you have it in storage with us. Once you do your order, we will review it. we will make sure everything's fine. And in the case of the UK, I know that there's a lot of UK participants today. We will work with your clinic to get everything approved before we even send it to the clinic. So, so once they say it's okay, it takes 1 to 2 days to deliver it to the clinic. So that's pretty much the process. We go to the next. Yeah, so I think we're going to cover some of the questions. I already saw that there's questions coming in, but we're going to have a question and answer session at the end that we're going to cover. So note them down, and we'll sure to cover those.
Absolutely. And on to Emma.
Yeah. So as I said before, my name is Emma and I am donor conceived. So my story begins when my mom was 24 and my dad was 26, so quite early actually. They wanted to have a baby, but it turned out that it wasn't so easy for them. So both my parents are doctors, and they researched a lot and found out different kinds of fertility treatment. They tried everything, and they went to fertility treatment for 6 years, and they tried everything, spent all their money on fertility treatments. And I was the last little egg in the freezer. And they were actually almost through with adoption when suddenly I was on the way and my mom was pregnant. And now they have me and my 2 younger sisters who are twins. So 3 kids for people struggling to have kids. So what my parents did, I have to say to everyone that at the time I was conceived, anonymous donors were the only option in Denmark. Yeah. So at the time I was born, my parents chose to be very honest and very open, which was very unusual for that time. So if you go to next slide. My parents made this children's book. The drawings you saw on the last slide and also the drawing you see in this slide is actually pictures from the children's book that my parents made me. And it was a very personal and very lovely book. And we read it as a nighttime story. It was about how they struggled to have kids and how happy they were when it finally happened, and all the process in how you make children in fertility treatment. So I've grown up with knowing the whole story and how everything happened, and then gradually I would understand more and more and ask questions when we read the book. I've always felt really, really wanted. I've always been really happy about my family, and I've always felt like they were my family and didn't think about being donor conceived very much, but sometimes it popped up, and sometimes I also felt a bit lonely. I think that was mostly because of my 2 younger sisters being twins, but who knows. But one thing that my parents always talk about is that they never stop worrying. They always worry if they did the right thing or if they could have done anything other than what they've done or anything in a better way. But I think for me, I've been really happy and had a great life. It hasn't been something that's worried me a lot. So sometimes it just pops up, and for example, I found out that I was lactose intolerant, And where that came from, at first we didn't know, but eventually we found out that it was from my donor. And these are things that I find very, it's just a bit fun, and it's really a big part of me that I'm donor conceived, but I don't see them as anything bad or anything, I don't see it as a problem. Yeah, next slide. So one of the things people are always very interested in is how I feel about my dad. And I've always been very close to my dad, and I've never felt any different from, so my two younger sisters are my dad's biological children, so that's makes the family dynamic a bit odd also. But I've never felt different from them. I've never felt that it had a big part in our life. And one of the other things that people always ask me about is how I feel about my donor. And as my donor is anonymous, I know nothing about him. I don't even know my donor number. I've never had any wish to know anything, actually. And I've never, I was quite old before I thought about the possibility of having half siblings, and I think I've always felt like they have their family and I have mine. I've never felt a need to go out and know more than I do. Yeah. About this, do I feel about, and actually for me it's been sometimes been quite a relief, because it means that I didn't have to make as much choices maybe as I would have in another situation. And so I've had a pretty good life, I think, so far. So that's also why I've just recently wrote a book. Translated, it would be Donor Child, a Wanted Child. And it's about my story and my family's story. And it's very personal, but I hope, it's my hope that it can comfort and help families and couples who are thinking of having donor conceived children. And then I have my blog, Donor Child by Emma, where I blog about different subjects and what's on my mind, I guess. Also because I want to help and to talk to people and to let them know how life has been for me so far. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Emma. So I think Emma probably has covered quite a lot about that in her presentation, so thank you. You mentioned that your parents told you through the beautiful book that they created, which is inspiring me that I should do something similar. Was there a time that you can remember being told, or is it something that you've always grown up knowing?
No, I think I've always grown up knowing, because they read it for me from I was, I think, maybe 1 or 2. So it was just a part of a nighttime story, and then I would gradually understand, and then, so I have no memory of when I was told, no.
And so from your experience of that route, what are your thoughts around if people are telling the child, when might be an appropriate time to start that narrative?
I believe that the sooner you tell, the better. I think that it not coming as a shock at any point in life is the best way to go about it. And then a children understands more than you think. and then they have the opportunity to ask questions. When they understand something more, they will ask questions about that. So I think that, and also children are they're more likely to ask and talk. And if you wait, maybe they won't ask the questions that they need to.
Mm-hmm.
I think the sooner you tell, the better.
And you mentioned that you've had different feelings throughout growing up in terms of not necessarily thinking about it every single day, but things have sprung up which have reminded you of being donor conceived. So do you feel like it's had different effects at different stages whilst you've been growing up?
I think for sure it has there are different points in life where it just has a bigger effect on you. I remember that there was a time where people talked a lot about who they looked like, the parents, if they looked like the mom or the dad. And that was a point where I thought a lot about who I looked like, if there was someone out there who looked like me, or if I walked past him on the street or something like that. So there has been times where it has occupied my mind a bit, but not in a bad way, more in a thinking about life and kind of way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And someone did ask what's been the worst thing about being born through donor conception, and then I'm actually going to ask you what's the best thing about it as well, for you personally.
I think that the best thing is that I've always felt very, very wanted and very, very loved. I've always known that my parents wanted me so, so bad. And the worst thing, I don't know, it took me, I'm lactose intolerant, as I told, and it took us 20 years to find out that that was why I had stomach pains when I had too much milk. Maybe that's the worst thing.
Yeah. Oh gosh. And what about, you mentioned that your parents were very, very open. So they were open with you. Were they open with friends and family as well about their conception story?
Yes, they were. So it's always been, people have always known, but it's not like it's been something that we've talked a lot about with friends and family, but they were very open also when they went through the process, when they couldn't get pregnant. They told both friends and family about this as well. Yeah.
And in terms of any half siblings that might be out there, have you, through ancestry or anything like that, have you connected with anyone, or is that not really something that's been of interest to you?
No, I've never had the interest. No, I don't know why, and maybe it will come someday, I don't know, but so far I've never had the wish. No.
Mm-hmm. And also you mentioned this earlier, but bonding with your dad, you mentioned how you've obviously always had a great loving relationship with him, but how have his feelings been throughout you growing up?
My dad is like, I think a lot of men, not one who talks a lot about feelings. But he's always been very, very open and very honest if I've had any questions or anything. And there's never been any negativity if I've had questions about my donor. And also when I came and told that I wanted to speak about it a bit more public, I think he also took it really, really well, because there is the chance that people recognize him and also work colleagues that might not know. And he's just been very cool with everything, I think.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Emma, for your honesty and openness. It's very compelling to hear. Does anyone have any questions for Emma before we go back to Cryos and process and selection? I'm just having a look through some of the questions that came in earlier. There is one actually that came in for you. We've covered a lot of them actually in terms of the conception story. Have you ever considered, and I'm presuming the answer may be no, considering how you answered about half siblings, but DNA testing, is that something that interests you to find out more about your genetic makeup?
Yeah, no, I don't think at the moment no, but you never know. Things might change, but at the moment no, not really. I don't see for me. No.
I think that's it then for the questions. I'm just seeing whether there are any more. Someone said
Jeg
about...
kan ikke finde en Huawei Teams fra mig i dine kontakter. Hvem vil du ringe til?
Hang on. Sorry, I don't know what's happening. I'm just looking through. If you could tell your dad anything before they decided to use a donor, what would it be?
Sorry?
If you could tell your dad anything before they decided to use a donor, what would it be?
I don't know. I think I would tell them to I think the important thing when you have children is to love them and to make sure they know that they are very loved and very wanted. And I think if you do that, and if you are honest and talk about things, I think you can go a long way. And I think then you might not have to worry that much, even though it's hard.
Absolutely. Thank you. I think we've covered... Someone's just asked, let's have a look. Well, Megan has asked how to get hold of your book. I presume through your blog, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, in a minute, we're just going to end on a slide after Mila has talked, which will give people contact details so that you can reach out for further information, etc. A couple more questions for you, Emma, and then we will go back to process. And someone asked, I hope you don't mind us asking this, how did your father end up having genetic children following your conception?
It was because at the point that my parents had me, they were told that in the near future they would come up with a new method, and so, but they didn't want to risk because they tried for children so long and they didn't know when this was. They thought that they didn't want to wait. And so when I was conceived and they tried to have my sisters, this new method was in fact a possibility, and then it happened. Yeah.
And how has that sort of affected your relationship with your sisters?
I think we were very, very old when we made the connection that me being donor conceived wasn't just something that impacted my biological relationship to my parents, but also to them, because we've always just felt like we were sisters, all three of us. Also because we're quite close.
Yeah. You're very close in age, it sounds like.
Yeah, we are. I think they're 1.5 years younger than me. Yeah.
And sorry, a couple more questions coming through. Do you know any other donor conceived children from single women and what their experiences have been like?
No, I don't know. Actually, I don't know any donor conceived children from single women. I think they might be a bit younger than I am. So no, I haven't met any actually. No.
And lastly, do you think it's important for parents to support their children in meeting the donor?
Oh, that's really hard to answer. I think that depends. But I think it's very important for the parents to support what the child needs. So if the child wants to meet the donor, I think you should support that. But I don't think that you should force it on them if it's not what they wish to. So I think it depends on the child. You have to just support them and see how they feel and just go with that. Yeah,
Great.
that would be my approach, I think.
That's great advice. Thank you so much, Emma. I think that's it for Emma. So we will move on to Cryos. So Mila, how and why do people decide to become donors?
Yes. So I think it's not a coincidence that that we have so many donors in Denmark. I think there is less stigma associated with donation here in Denmark than there is maybe in other parts of the world. And a lot of the donors tell us that that they're generally inclined to do so because they know someone that has struggled with fertility. We have had donors that have their own children and want to help other people have the same joy in their lives. And I think you know, there is an element of altruism in the motivation, and it comes forward. I think we asked the donors to write a letter to the future children, and this always comes through. So there is some kind of giving back to society and helping that comes up. So the way that they become donors, we do some, we recruit, you know, we do events at universities and things like that. And I'm going to give some of a bit of the profile of the typical donor so you have an idea. So our donors are 18 to 45 years old. They're physically healthy and mentally healthy, and about half of them are in a relationship. About half of them are studying or have finished higher education. We have about half of them are blood donors as well as sperm donors. So that's another indication that, you know, it's part of a larger motivation to donate. Yeah, I think about half of them are employed or full-time employed or are self-employed. So that's a bit of the profile of our donors. As I said before, we only accept 5 to 7 out of 100 that apply to become a donor. And I don't know if you want me to go into the process of selecting them. I think it's probably the next question.
Yep.
So the way it works is they send us an online application, and we review it, and then we invite them to come in, where we talk with them, and then we do a sperm analysis. So we want to make sure that, you know, the first check is that they have good sperm, otherwise there wouldn't be any reason to continue. And after that, if they have excellent sperm, so we can begin the process of doing medical checkups, interviews, psychological evaluations, physical examinations, and then we do. There's a lot of, it's very time consuming because they have to fill out a lot of paperwork for the different countries that they have agreed to donate to, and so forth. And then we do all the infectious diseases and all a panel of genetic testing that we do. We test for 46 recessive genes. So if all that comes back in order, then we can move forward and begin the process of donation. So it's a, you know, they have to be committed to donate.
Cryos International have also written some excellent articles for Fertility Help Hub, which people can find on fertilityhelphub.com, the website. If you put in the search bar Cryos, all of the articles, which are very insightful, come up, and those include things like reasons why people become donors, with quotes from some of your donors, and also around the selection process. So it goes into more details, and obviously there'll be links in the next slide to be able to contact you directly and look at your website in detail, and search for yourselves. So the next question is around support available when selecting, and how you work with UK fertility clinics.
Okay, so we have a pretty transparent website in terms of all the, so we give access to all of the information about the donors on the website. So you, once you create the account, as I said before, you have access to all the information about the donor. So it's pretty much, you know, finding what you want, and it has to feel right for you. And we pretty much let you make that decision. And of course, if you have questions, you can always call us, and we can, but we haven't met the donors. We don't, you know, we see the same as you see on the website. So we can offer clarification in terms of what something means, you know, in terms of what it means to be ID release or non-ID release, but pretty much it's the same information that you get. How it works with the UK clinics is that when we receive the order, we will contact your clinic and make sure they're okay before, and that the donor you selected is approved by the clinic. So we have to send a lot of paperwork to the clinic for the clinic to review before we can send the order. And once they approve it, it's pretty much yeah, very quick. The way also it works with the UK is that there's a 10 families can use the same donor. So in the order process, you will be asked to buy this family slot. I don't know if that question came up, but so one donor can only be used by a maximum of 10 families. When you get this lot, you're guaranteed that you're one of those families that can get treatment with this donor. And when you get pregnant, you need to report the pregnancy back to Cryos, so we have a record of which donors have pregnancies. So that's pretty much how it works with the UK.
Thank you. And what about, you mentioned, you touched on this earlier, but what about the checks that you run on the donors prior to them donating? Health checks.
Yeah, so we do, so before we get a donor approved, we do a lot of health checks, and then we do it ongoing throughout the duration of the donation. So we continue to test the donors all along, and you can always access, that's also another piece of information you can access on the website. Under each donor, we have a document that's called Summary of Records. And there you can see everything. You can see the blood type of the donor. You can see all the screening that we did, all the tests, everything that we've done about that donor. So that's also available to you prior to purchase.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And I'm just going to finish these questions, and then I'm going to highlight some of the things that we've just been asked as we're talking, things
Yes.
that haven't come up yet.
Yes.
So are there different kinds of straws selected for IUI as, rather than IVF?
So we have two types of straws. We have ICI straws, which is they are unwashed, and we have IUI ready straws that have been washed. For IUI, you can only use the IUI ready straws. They are, I mean, you can use the other ones, but the clinic will have to prepare them. So we recommend the IUI if you're going to have IUI treatment. And then for IVF, both are okay. Both can be used. It depends what the clinic prefers. Most clinics are fine with IUI, which is what we have most of. Normally, they a lot of clinics will do a light preparation of the straws anyway prior to doing the treatment to remove the cryopreservant. But other than that, the clinic can probably tell you if they have a preference on that. But all the straws can be used. Yeah.
And I think
yes.
Sorry, I was going to say, I think you're sort of answering the next question in this when people have asked beforehand whether there's a difference in terms of selection depending on your situation, whether you're a same-sex couple or a solo mum by choice, or it's due to male factor. Is that right, that those are the options depending on the kind of fertility treatment that you're having?
So yeah, that question was interesting because as a sperm bank, we want to help everyone, and we want to, it doesn't matter if you're a single woman or if you're in a same-sex relationship or how old you are. We want to make sure that we help as many women that want to have a child. We're not, limiting in any way. But there are some countries where there are limitations. They have a maximum age where you can access treatment, or they won't treat single women if they're not married, or same-sex couples. So in terms of what we offer is the same. We want to be able to help you. So if you are in a country where there are some of these limitations and you feel that you can't get access to assisted reproduction, give us a call. We would be happy to listen to what your situation is and find a way for you to get that, because we believe everyone should have access to that. And some countries are more restrictive, but thankfully we know where the options are, and we can maybe direct you in another direction.
Okay, thank you. We've had a ton of questions come through, which I think we're going to answer in some of these questions too. And for anyone who's asking, we will get to you, so please don't worry, I'm going to work through them in a second. So just bear with me. So in terms of donor family limits, I think you mentioned that before, didn't you, for the UK?
Yeah, so we follow the national quotas. Most countries now have established quotas for how many families can use the same donor, and we follow that. And so it's different in each country. We do have a maximum that we strive to, but in the past, it was a lot more difficult to report the pregnancies. Nowadays is a lot easier. It's a click away. You just need to get back to us and let us know that you did achieve a pregnancy, so we know, and we can register that and work towards limiting the amount of registered pregnancies or families that have children with specific donors. So it's very important that we hear back from all of you, and that you register the pregnancies with us.
Mm-hmm. And what about the cost of donor sperm?
Well, it depends what you buy, because there's a lot of variation. We have non-ID release, previously called anonymous donors, and we have the ID release. And then within those, we have basic profiles and we have extended profiles, and a basic profile costs a lot less than an extended profile. And then within those, we have different motilities. And I'll go into what motility is and all that. But so there's a lot of variation in what you can get and how much information you want to access. So the more information you access about the donor, the more expensive it becomes. But you can always navigate the costs by choosing something cheaper if you need to cut back, or and you can go as high as you want. So the motility, which you can see on the website, we have the abbreviation MOT. Let me just have a drink of water. I can hear my throat. So MOT means motility is it's the amount of active sperm cells per milliliter. So a motility 10 would be 10 million active sperm cells per milliliter, 20 million, and so on. So the higher you go, the greater the amount of motile sperm you get, and so the price goes a bit higher. So, but all the prices are also again on the website, and it's under each donor. You can see exactly what you would be charged for each straw.
Great, thank you. Someone has asked whether you would, sorry, I'm flicking between the screens. Someone has asked whether you would, or you have anyone through Cryos who they could possibly speak to who is donor conceived with a non-anonymous, an ID release donor. But I guess that might be age dependent.
Well, the legislation for ID release changed. We haven't reached the time yet where a child conceived from an ID release donor has reached 18 years old. So I don't think we could offer that right now. They would be minors, so I don't think that would be a possibility. But in a few years, probably. And that would be very interesting to get to know some of them.
Definitely.
Yes.
A question for Emma. I'm sorry, I missed this one before. How do you answer medical forms where people ask about medical history and genetics?
That is actually something that I've thought about, and also something that I mentioned in my book, because it's one of the places where I get reminded. But when I've been asked, I've just told that I was donor conceived, and then they haven't really said anything else, because then they know that I don't know half of my biological inheritance. So yeah, it is something that is a bit different, and something that you have to think about when if you're at the doctor and they ask you for something. But I haven't tried filling out any forms. I think I would just write it down as I would tell it. Yeah.
Thank you.
I guess.
And a question from me. I presume that as you've got older and come across these kinds of questions medically, perhaps the response has been different as people have, become more familiarized with donor conception.
Yeah, I think people know a bit more now than they did back in the days. Also, when I was a child, and I spoke very openly about it from I was very young, and that was very odd to many people at that time, where I think now it's changing, it's becoming more known, and I hope for donor conceived children that it's also then becoming a bit more easy and people understand them a bit better.
Absolutely, thank you. Okay, so there have been a lot of questions, so bear with me as I work through them, and I'm really sorry if I've missed any. You mentioned offspring. Did you give a number for worldwide, Mila?
I didn't. So we strive for, well, it is very rare, I should say, that a donor reaches 25 to 50 families worldwide. But we have, in the past, I would say it was, as I said, more difficult to register pregnancies. We didn't hear back for a long time sometimes. And Today it's just a click away, and we have a very good system of stock management, which allows us to limit the production from a single donor. So taking into consideration the national quotas that I mentioned before, and these limits that we set for ourselves, so it's a lot easier to limit that.
Okay, thank you. Two questions which are kind of might be slightly similar in response. There's just been some questions around COVID and Brexit and the effect of that.
All right. So about Brexit, we have taken all the precautions that can be taken at this point. There's a lot of uncertainty still about what's going to happen after January 1st because of the agreements that have to still get negotiated. But we have actually met with the HFEA. We have planned ahead. We have all the documents ready for the clinics, and everything should. And we've registered also with the British authorities for freight traffic. So we are prepared, as much as prepared as we can be. So it shouldn't cause any issues. So I just wanted to offer reassurance on that. About COVID, we have taken all the security and safety precautions. We've followed ESTRA and ASTRAM as guidelines. They are the two fertility societies here in Europe and in America. And we are, of course, also following all the guidelines from the Danish Ministry of Health. And we're happy to say we have been fully operative and can send your order to the clinics. As long as the clinics are open and able to receive an order, we are still able to send an order. We know that a lot of countries are now seeing a spike of cases, and of course, in some countries, some clinics may be closing and temporarily due to the lockdowns. In the UK, they're not closing. The HFEA just announced they're not foreseeing that the clinics will close like they did last time, as long as they keep following all the safety guidelines. But there might be delays in your treatment, so we want to offer, if your treatment got postponed, or you get sidetracked in any way by the COVID situation, we would like to offer 6 months free storage, or until your appointment happens. So just make sure when you place a reservation or if you have already placed an order and it gets delayed to let us know that it's because of COVID, and we will offer that.
Wonderful, thank you. We have actually touched on a lot of these questions which I've just gone through, but a couple of things that maybe we haven't yet. Let me find it. You mentioned obviously about the UK having regulations and rules about donors being ID release. So yes. I'm presuming when someone says, can you ship non-ID sperm to the UK, you can't.
We cannot, no. But if you want to have treatment abroad, right now, I know that due to the current pandemic, it's very difficult to travel. But if you are not planning on having treatment right now, but sometime in the future, and you want to explore other options, you are welcome to contact us, and we will be happy to even recommend your clinic abroad if that's what your preference is.
And what about blood donors? Blood groups in donor selection?
Yeah, it's something you need to consider with your own doctor if you have a rare type, but otherwise it doesn't have that much of an effect. Only if you have a rare type that and then you would know that you do. But talk to your doctor about that and make sure that that you don't have that rare type. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And someone's asked about recommending fertility clinics in the UK. Are there specific clinics that you work with?
Yes, we can do that, and probably not here, but if you want to give us a call, we would be happy to find one in your area that we can recommend. Not a problem at all.
Great. And ethical issues around recruiting donors at university?
Well,
I guess in terms of the age, I think that's what the person means.
Yeah, most of our donors, so if they are under the age of, I think it's 23, we do a bit more maturity evaluations and psychological evaluations. So we make sure that they pass this maturity interview, because they have to be in it for the right reasons. But I wouldn't say that the majority are 18. They tend to be, I think the average age is 25 or something like that around.
That's good to know.
So, yeah.
Thank you. I've been going through about 60 questions and I'm aware of the time, so I'm just going to pull out some, and if there are some that we haven't been able to cover, apologies, but we're about to share contact details, so please do get in touch with both our lovely panelists from this evening. Emma, can someone buy your book and have it shipped to Canada?
I saw that, and I just wrote her to take contact, and then we'll figure something out.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. We've covered a lot of these. And what about reporting births, Mila?
Yes.
Where are those reported?
So if you are in a country where we have a quota system, so the UK would be one, when you purchase the quota, it stays in your account, and that quota you can convert to a pregnancy when you know. If you do not get pregnant, and if you don't have any straws or embryos at a clinic, and you don't want to continue treatment with the donor, you can get a refund for that quota reservation. So just that fee for using the donor. The same applies if you want to switch donors. You can always give up that quota and get a quota for another one. But the important thing, it's very nice that we refund that quota, but it's important not to do it if you plan to continue treatment, because then you will lose that spot on the list. But it's easy when you go into your account online. You can see it under your account, the quota reservation, and you can either convert it to the pregnancy or request the refund if you've decided to stop.
Okay, thank you. And someone has asked about frozen sperm potentially being less likely to lead to conception than fresh.
Sorry, say that again?
Questioning whether frozen sperm would be less likely to lead to success than fresh.
That's an interesting question. I don't know, honestly, the answer to that. I think that because we are offering high quality sperm, you're pretty much guaranteed a very high motility. So I don't know how that high motility would compare with a fresh high motility, which would be the same level. Mm-hmm. But you know that you're buying high quality sperm. So in that sense, it is what we're saying it is. So it is the 20 million active sperm cells. So it shouldn't have a negative effect in any case.
And also, obviously, the person can work with the clinic to understand how many straws they'd recommend.
Yes, and
treatment.
usually in reality, one per cycle is enough. And I would say an IUI MOT10 works for any treatment, but some clinics might prefer a motility 20, and you have to run it by them. But for most treatments, I would say a 1 MOT10 would be probably enough. And we have clinics that are okay with a MOT5, and other clinics that prefer MOT20. So, but it should be enough. Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. I'm going to now leave it on this slide so people can take a note and screenshot contact details. Please message myself or Mila or Emma if you've got any questions, because we have still got lots of questions. Donor health and checks, again, please speak to Mila if you want more information about that. And in terms of family numbers, again, if there's further information wanted about that, please do ask. And we have had a question about the US, which is actually relating to eggs, so that's probably a better one to follow up via email. And sorry, just having a really quick look because I don't want to leave any out. Someone has said, how do they reserve sperm on your website?
So when you go under the straws available, you should be able to either add them to an order or on a reservation. And when you add them to a reservation, it will also ask you for how long you want it to be stored at Cryos, and that's pretty much it. And then we'll handle it.
Okay, thank you. And what about CMV positive versus negative?
Yes. So the donors that are marked as CMV positive have had a CMV infection at some point, but not at the time of donation, obviously. And when we prepare the sperm, so the IUI means it's been centrifuged. If there were any traces of anything, it's probably reduced to 0. But especially in the UK, there are some guidelines that suggest that it's better that if you have a status that is CMV negative, that you choose a donor that is CMV negative. And that if your status is positive, then you can use either one. It's a bit controversial because most countries don't even look at that, but in the UK they do, and we have both, but obviously the majority of the population, of the general population, is CMV positive, so there's always going to be less donors that are negative there. But if you need help with that, let us know, and we'll be happy to help you find one.
Thank you. There are a few more questions and just sort of ethical questions around reasons for people donating, around anonymity, and also the reasons that people become donors. So as I mentioned, there are articles that have been written around that, and Cryos can answer those questions for you too. We are now out of time. I hope that we've got through all the questions we can. I want to thank everyone for joining tonight. I hope that it's been informative, and please do contact any of us if you'd like any further information. Thank you both to our lovely panelists, and good evening, everyone.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.